In 2014, Etihad Airways unveiled something the aviation world had never seen: a 3-room apartment at 40,000 feet, a living room, a separate bedroom with a double bed, a private shower, a dedicated butler trained at the Savoy Hotel in London. The price tag ran somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000 one way. This wasn't just first class, this was real estate with wings. But here's the problem: the people wealthy enough to afford a $40,000 plane ticket don't fly commercial. They have Gulfstreams, they have private terminals, they have pilots on speed dial. Etihad had built the most luxurious commercial aviation product in history for a customer that didn't exist, and that space where the residents sat, it could have held 2 to 6 revenue-generating seats. Instead, it flew empty across oceans, a monument to something that had nothing to do with aviation economics. But this wasn't just about a fancy suite. It was about one airline's desperate attempt to buy in a single decade what its neighbor had taken 30 years to build. This is the story of how Etihad tried to manufacture greatness, and how that strategy produced one of the most spectacular financial collapses in modern aviation history. To understand Etihad's gamble, you need to understand the geography of ego in the United Arab Emirates. Abu Dhabi is the capital. It holds roughly 90% of the UAE's oil wealth. It's the quiet older brother with all the money and none of the fame. Dubai is the flashy younger sibling. Glass towers, artificial islands, the world's tallest building, and most importantly for our story, Emirates Airline. Emirates had spent 3 decades building something extraordinary. They started in 1985 with 2 leased aircraft. By the 2010s, they operated the largest international airline on Earth. They did it the hard way, route by route, passenger by passenger. They earned their reputation through operational excellence and relentless expansion. Abu Dhabi watched this happen. The wealthy capital sat in the shadow of its more famous neighbor, and in 2003 the royal family decided enough was enough. They would build their own airline. Not just any airline, the best airline in the world. Think about it this way: it's like a billionaire who gets jealous watching a famous content creator. Instead of building an audience organically, he decides to just buy clout, throw money at the problem until people pay attention. Etihad was born with a blank check and a chip on its shoulder. Enter James Hogan, the Australian executive who would become both architect and antagonist of Etihad's golden era. He arrived in 2006 with a mandate from the Abu Dhabi royal family that was as simple as it was impossible: make us bigger than Emirates. Do it fast. Hogan understood something immediately. You cannot outgrow Emirates through conventional means. They had too much head start, too many aircraft, too many routes, too much brand recognition. If Etihad played the same game, they would always be catching up. So he invented a different game entirely. The strategy was called the Equity Alliance. Instead of building routes organically, Etihad would buy stakes in airlines around the world. These partner carriers would funnel passengers into Abu Dhabi. Etihad's network would explode overnight. On paper, they would look like a global giant. The shopping spree was breathtaking. Air Berlin in Germany, Alitalia in Italy, Jet Airways in India, Virgin Australia, Air Serbia, Air Seychelles, Darwin Airlines. Etihad scattered billions across continents, buying pieces of airlines the way some people collect stamps. But here's what Hogan missed, or chose to ignore. He wasn't buying healthy airlines, he was buying the sick and dying. Air Berlin was hemorrhaging money. The German carrier had never figured out how to compete with Lufthansa on one side and Ryanair on the other. They were stuck in the middle, with costs too high and fares too low. Alitalia was even worse. The Italian flag carrier had been a national embarrassment for decades. Government bailouts, union battles, management chaos. Italy's airline was less a business than a perpetual life support patient. Jet Airways in India was drowning in debt. The founder refused to cede control even as the airline spiraled toward oblivion. Etihad kept writing checks anyway. The theory was that Abu Dhabi's money could fix what decades of mismanagement had broken. They would impose Etihad standards, share best practices, turn zombies into champions. It never worked that way. The equity partners couldn't be fixed because the problems weren't just operational. They were structural, cultural, political. German unions wouldn't accept Abu Dhabi's efficiency demands. Italian regulators protected Alitalia from the restructuring it desperately needed. Indian ownership rules prevented Etihad from taking the control necessary to implement real change. Etihad had bought influence, but not control. They could suggest improvements but couldn't force them. Meanwhile, the partner airlines kept burning through cash and Etihad kept topping up the tank. Then there was the fleet strategy. If you're going to challenge Emirates, you need to match their product. Emirates had built its reputation on the A380 Super Jumbo, showers in first class, onboard bars, the kind of luxury that made flying feel like an event rather than transportation. Etihad decided to go bigger, or rather more ridiculous. The residence was the crown jewel, 3 rooms totaling 125 square feet. A Poltrona Frau leather sofa that converted into a dining table for 2, a separate bedroom with a real double bed, a private bathroom with shower, temperature and lighting controls for every zone, and that butler, always the butler, trained at one of London's most prestigious hotels specifically to serve 1 passenger on 1 flight. They called it a penthouse in the sky. The marketing was spectacular. The reality was problematic. Let's talk numbers. That space occupied prime real estate on the upper deck of an A380. In a standard configuration, you could fit 2 to 6 premium seats there. Each of those seats might sell for $5,000 to $10,000 on a long-haul route. That's $10,000 to $60,000 in potential revenue. The residence sold for maybe $40,000, when it sold at all, which wasn't often. The ultra-wealthy target market had better options. Private aviation offers door-to-door convenience, no security lines, no shared spaces, no schedules to follow. A $40,000 commercial ticket competed against a private jet experience that cost several times more but offered complete privacy and schedule control. The residence became a flying billboard, beautiful for marketing photos, terrible for economics, a physical manifestation of Etihad's core problem. They prioritized perception over profit. Behind the residence sat the first apartments, and behind those, the business studios. Every product was designed to be the best in its class. Every product added weight and complexity and cost, and every product competed for the same small pool of premium passengers that Emirates had spent decades cultivating. Etihad's A380 fleet grew to 10 aircraft, all configured for maximum luxury, all burning fuel at rates that only made sense if every premium seat sold at full price on every flight. Then the house of cards started collapsing. Air Berlin filed for bankruptcy in August 2017. The German government refused a bailout. Etihad had poured nearly $2 billion into the carrier. Gone. Alitalia entered administration the same year. Another $2 billion in investments evaporated. The Italian government eventually renationalized the carrier under a new name. Etihad's stake became worthless. Jet Airways suspended operations in April 2019. Another massive investment written off. India's largest private carrier became India's largest aviation failure. Each collapse rippled back to Abu Dhabi. The traffic those airlines were supposed to feed into Etihad's hub never materialized. The passengers that were supposed to fill those A380 seats, they booked on Emirates instead, or Qatar, or just flew direct on some other carrier. By 2016, the bleeding was catastrophic. Etihad posted a loss of nearly $2 billion, not from operations alone, from writing down the value of investments that had become worthless, from admitting that the equity alliance strategy had failed completely. The numbers got worse in 2017, another $1.5 billion in losses. The cumulative damage was staggering. An airline that had been given unlimited resources had managed to lose more money in 2 years than most airlines generate in a decade of profits. James Hogan departed in 2017. The blank check era was over. What followed was painful but necessary. The new management team inherited a broken strategy and a bloated airline. They had to tear it down to rebuild anything viable. The restructuring was brutal. Routes were slashed, staff were cut. The dreamy talk of becoming a super connector disappeared. In its place came something Etihad had never admitted before. They were not going to beat Emirates. They were not going to be the biggest. They needed to become profitable instead. The public announcement was remarkable for its honesty. Etihad stated they would transform into a mid-sized full-service carrier, not a global giant. A boutique airline focused on Abu Dhabi as a destination rather than a connecting hub. The A380 fleet became a particular problem. Those 10 aircraft represented enormous capital investment. They required specialized crews, dedicated maintenance, airport gates configured for their massive size, and they needed hundreds of passengers per flight to make economic sense. When the pandemic hit in 2020, the decision made itself. Etihad grounded the entire A380 fleet. Emirates also grounded their A380 fleet initially before gradually returning them to service months later. Etihad's sat in the desert, too luxurious to fly, too expensive to operate without the artificial passenger numbers the equity partners were supposed to provide. The irony was perfect. Emirates had built something real over 30 years. Organic growth, genuine demand, routes that worked because passengers wanted them. When crisis hit, they had foundation to stand on. Etihad had built something hollow, purchased growth, artificial networks, products designed for headlines rather than economics. When crisis hit, there was nothing underneath. But here's the interesting part. The story doesn't end in failure. By stopping the attempt to be the biggest, Etihad finally became profitable. The 2024 results showed a net profit of approximately $143 million. The airline that once lost $2 billion in a single year had finally returned to genuine profitability. The transformation required abandoning everything Hogan had built. The equity alliance is dead. The superconnector dream is buried. The A380s eventually returned to service in limited numbers starting in 2023. But they fly as pragmatic capacity tools, not as Emirates killers. The residence still exists. You can still book it if you want to spend the equivalent of a luxury car on a plane ticket. But it's a quirk of history now, a reminder of what happens when an airline tries to buy what can only be earned. Etihad's fleet is smaller today than in 2019. Their network is more focused. Their ambitions are more realistic. They've ordered A321LRs for point-to-point routes, narrow-body aircraft that don't need connecting traffic to be profitable. The lesson extends beyond aviation. You cannot purchase legacy. You cannot buy authenticity. You cannot shortcut the decades of work required to build something that actually functions. Emirates understood that passengers connect through Dubai because the network makes sense, because the timing works, because the product justifies the price. They built demand through service and then built capacity to meet it. Etihad tried to build capacity first, buy the aircraft, buy the partners, buy the passengers, create demand through sheer force of spending. It was a strategy built on vanity rather than economics, and economics always wins eventually. The A380 with its 3-room apartment in the sky remains the perfect symbol of this era. Beautiful, impressive, completely disconnected from what the market actually wanted. What do you think? Can an airline ever successfully buy its way to greatness? Or is organic growth the only path that actually works? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe.